I've got to get the flux capacitor fluxing. Okay, the flux capacitor is fluxing, as known as the timer. All right, so this week we're going to pick up with, I forgot, what verse is this? 21. I'm going to back up here a little bit, and I stretch something out so that you guys can actually see it, because we just went through the steps that are to be taken by a person who has the financial wherewithal to follow these particular steps. It doesn't indicate somebody wealthy. It just indicates somebody with a good job that, and is responsible with their money, lambs and all that kind of stuff. But not everybody has that kind of money. Not everybody makes enough money truly to live a comfortable life. And so there's a variation on those rules, and we're stepping into those variations. Now, before we really talk about the variations, I put together the rules ahead of time. So I want you to see them again in a little bit better light than last time. So let's go to the computer. There we go. All right, so one of the first things that's going to change is the poor person who has been cleansed from this illness is only going to have to buy one lamb. Now remember, the person who has the ability to pay is going to buy three, but the person who cannot afford time, there's going to be very few of us that are they expensive right now, but they weren't back then, and they won't be again. The price of lamb goes up and down. And so anyway, but this is the one lamb, and that's going to be for what we were calling the guilt offering. But remember, I think that, well, I know that this is a name of this, not the not an offering for guilt, because that's what a sin offering would do, wouldn't it? Person will bring or purchase the fine flour and mix that with the oil. This section, but just because it's not mean you don't do it. The rules have already been laid out for the person who can afford it. And when we get to this place, they don't mention the oil to know that's part of it, because that's the way Hebrew is supposed to know this. Anyway, the fine flour, the reason why I say purchase or bring, well, you have to have brand new stuff. If you have it at home, the oil and the flour, you just bring what you have. That may help you save a little money too. The third thing is the cleansed person will bring or purchase half a liter of oil. Now, if you've been listening, you know that I don't buy into this wholeheartedly, but then I've never mixed a half a liter of oil with a fistful of flour. I don't know how that works out. I don't know if that works at all. And my wife, so I'm doubtful on this. The problem is Hebrew language, but we don't know what that measurement is anymore. It's lost to time right now. It didn't come up in the Dead Sea Scrolls in there, but it wasn't. So we don't really know. A half a liter is, then in the other case, 1.5 liters. I think that's just a little overboard. Cleansed person will bring doves or 2 young doves, one bird for the sin offering and the other bird for the olah. Let's say cleanse, bring the purchase. Oh, if you can't catch a bird, you may have to buy it. The law is not that you have to purchase. The law is that you birds, and if you can catch 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, meaning 1-year-old doves, if you can do, you don't have to purchase it. Another thing that helps poor If you can afford it, you should just pay for it, probably. Well, I don't know. What's the difference? Honestly, what's the difference? If you can catch them, that's all I'm saying. Number 5, the cleansing doves, or the 2 birds, I should say, to the priest at the entrance of the Ohel Moed, which is the Hebrew word for the tent of meeting, the 8th day. So that's what we're about to find that up with the actual scriptures themselves. So, verse 21, now we're in Vayikra, chapter 14, verse 41. That's Leviticus 14:21 for the uninitiated. Let's say it that way. It says, Ve'im dahu ve'ein yado masaget ve'lakach keves echad, so 1 sheep. Asham, that's the name of it, of the sacrifice. Li tenufa lechaper, the covering, ala ve'i saron solet echad balu bashemen, there's your fat, le mincha velog shamen. All right, so it calls the poor, dal, D-A-L, dal. This is something hanging, something that swings, hence the leaf of a door as being hung up and swinging both ways. That really describes a poor person, doesn't it? It's from the Hebrew word dalal. It's which means to hand down. It's the people who get the hand-me-downs. You getting the idea now where we get poor people from this? So it's, they use it of trees, of the especially of willows, of the limbs that hang down, and it looks like the poor tree. It looks in bad shape, and so there's a lot of different things that you get from one Hebrew word, right? And it's of weakness and being feeble, because you're in poor health, right? So hopefully you get the idea of how we get a poor person from the word dog. Then let's see what else is real important here. It says Yado Masaget, which is then it says Velakak. So you put those 3 things together, and Yado, of course, is his hand. Masaget, reach. It's of your hand is reaching something, if you will. But it's like to grab something and pull it back to yourself, I guess, is probably more the idea. Then to the lakach is to take, so you've grabbed it, you've pulled it backwards and taken it to yourself. And what is it you're going to do that with? Keves, echad, 1 sheep. And then we have Asham, as I said a while ago. That's the name of this offering. It is, the sages really got off on this because they didn't know what this word meant. I'm saying they got off base with their commentary because they didn't recognize that this was essentially a noun. The idea of verbs and nouns, that does not actually exist in Bible Hebrew. That's an English thing for us trying to find some way to understand their language and ours, which is a really dumb approach. You're never really going to learn that way. You need to learn their language in their language. That's the way to do it. It'll work better. So anyway, they were just guessing at what this thing meant, and so they came up with guilt. So then there was all this stuff that had to be written about the difference between a sin offering and a guilt offering. No. Anyway, our next important word is lite nufa, which is that's the waving. And remember, that was the waving, the shaking. So Josephus, Josephus wrote about he said that the priest would take the meat and they would face the north and lift it up, wave it like this, up and down. And I think he said side to side. I haven't read that in years. I don't remember, but for sure I remember it was up and down. And then they would turn to the south, and then they'd go to the west and then to the east. I think it was. I think you wound up at you either started at the east or you wound up at the east. I don't remember. I'd have to look that up. But he actually wrote about what they did in the Second Temple period. Whether they did it that way in the First Temple period, we don't know. I mean, you think about all of the slavery that happened, the destruction of the temple, and the attempt at rebuilding it, and the destruction of that one, and going back into slavery once again. I mean, a lot of stuff happened, and a lot of stuff got lost in all of that. So whether it was done exactly the same way, no one can say. Is it likely? No one can say. You can't say that that's the most likely way because maybe they shook it. The word means that you get the idea of waving from the shaking. So it's hard to say, but it. And again, this could just be what it's called. But if it's called that, it's probably because that's the action involved. The problem with the last word, uh, asham, is that we don't actually know where it comes from. There's some guesses as to what the root may have been, but since there's about 4 different words that this could come from, there's a lot of argument about which one it definitely is, but nobody knows. Anyway, we have lechaper, that was the covering, alav, for a covering over him. And then it says ve'i saron, and that's the 10th solet, a 10th part, if you will, of fine flour. Balul was the mingling. You're going to mix the flour and the fat. How do I know you're going to mix the fat? You didn't say that. Well, the next word is bashemen. That's how I knew. All right, so then we have le mincha, and that's to offer. That's to give a gift. That's they say tribute, but I've always had a problem with wanting to say that because how is it a gift if it's tribute? But then again, they call a tithe tribute. So that's your gift to God, even though you're commanded to give it, right? I don't get that part. I think that the idea of gift comes from translators and was probably not part of the idea back in the day. I think it was just this is what you're supposed to bring. And then the log is our next important word, and that's that one where they say it's the smallest of the measures of liquid things, and then they tell you it's 1/2 of a liter. How is that the smallest? I don't know. We're going to have to try it. We're going to have to go out there and fire up the barbecue pit one of these days and take a 1.5 liter and call the fire department first. Get the fire extinguishers out and try that and see what happens. I think there's going to be a big fire is what I think. So then you have the 1/2 a liter or whatever this smallest amount of oil, shaman, the oil or fat, you can call it either one because oil and fat are the same thing because it's a liquid fat if you want to think, if that doesn't make sense otherwise. So the translation, but if he is poor and is unable to afford it, now how do I know? Why would I say that? That's not what the text says. Well, because it's an idiom. The idiom is none hand he reaching and take, or unable he to reach and take it. You kind of hear it, right? But that's an idiom for he can't afford it. So it's, but if he is poor and unable to afford it, he will acquire 1 lamb for the waving of the asham offering for the covering over him, with 1/10 of fine flour mingled with fat for his gift, and 1/2 liter of oil. I have to say it that way because, again, I'm not real positive it's actually 1/2 liter. Vaikra by Drazen Wagner argues that the reason why the Targumus, now this is the Onkelos, does not say if the person is too poor. He didn't say that. He just basically translated the idiom, which makes no sense. But he says they did that because he doesn't want to add to the text. I would offer a different opinion in that I don't think the Targumist knew what the idiom meant, because there are times when he does explain the idiom. So I think it's more of an indication that he doesn't recognize the idiom than it is he's not wanting to add to or take away, because he sure didn't mind adding to and taking away. He did it a lot. So anyway, that's my take on that. So let's move on to verse 22, which says, Ushite rorim o shene bene yona asher tasig yado vehaya echad chatat veha echad olah. All right, so you guys recognize Ushite? Hey, are we having a problem with this one over here?
What?
Are we having a problem with camera one?
No. You want to go back?
We just wondered because I don't remember ever staying on this one this long before.
Turn around.
Okay. All right. Shite is, it's like saying twos. 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 We don't do that, right? We don't, if we say two, that's dual, right? There's more than one. But this is literally the word two in plural. Why is it in plural? Because it's more than one. But this is number two. It's to repeat. It's used of the idea of to repeat. It's used of the idea of dual, like two eyes. If you say eyes, that's two of them. So anyway, it's a pair. It's the word you would use for if, hey, get a pair of socks. You would say shit. Shite. I don't even know what the word for socks is. I think it's sock. I think that's Hebrew. Anyway, then we have rorim. That's the turtle doves. This is one of those words that was used in I think the Song of Solomon. He called his love a turtle dove. You know, he wasn't in love with birds, but in this case, it's birds. Then it says O, which means or in English. You say O in Hebrew. Ze, O, this, or that. I guess I forgot the word. Shene. Wait a minute. Let me look at my Hebrew here. I think I've got the wrong word here. That's weird. Well, I have here that it's the word for two. These are completely different spellings, so I'm having a problem with that. I may have gotten something wrong here. Anyway, you've got, it should have been the word for two. B'nai, which is the word for children. You'll find that in translating translations of the biblical text, you find that it'll say sons more often than children, because it'll be about somebody's sons, right? The Hebrew text says children, but they'll put son in there because the man only had sons or something like that. They shouldn't do that. They should just use the word for children, as far as I'm concerned, because that's what b'nai is. It's both masculine and feminine. So you need two children, Yonah. So children, two young, if you will, doves. That tasig. That means it's like saying to take, but this isn't the lakach word. This is to recede, to cause to recede from a place. So it's kind of the same idea. You're taking them away from this place, but it's a different word. Is that a different bullet point? No. In Hebrew, they use different words that mean the same thing to break up the monotony. That's all there is to that. It's not two different things. It's never supposed to be seen that way. That's what we do in the Western world. That is not what they did in the biblical world. Okay. He'll take 2 to his hand, and then it says he'll take 1 chatat. One is for the sin offering, and then it says 1 olah, echad olah. So it's 1 for the burnt offering, or the barbecue offering, I should say. So our translation is, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves that he can afford, because it said to take hand he. So that's the idiom, one that he can afford. And there will be 1 sin offering and 1 barbecue offering, or 1 burnt offering. The way you know the difference between the one that they cook to eat and say the one that the whole thing is burnt. Now, for one thing, the one that the whole thing is burnt is only oil and I'm thinking mud. Why? What? Oil and the handful of fine flour. Those 2 put together is burnt up. It serves no purpose. But when it's meat, they cut, you slaughter the animal, you cut it up, you prep it, you put your favorite barbecue sauce on it. I don't know if they did that, but they probably did. Well, maybe not barbecue sauce, but something Mediterranean, I'm sure. But I can't imagine they wouldn't put something on it, because the whole point was to eat it. That's what a burnt offering is. And usually when they're talking about the offering that's actually burnt all the way up, I find using the word burnt offering instead of saying meal offering. The meal offering and sometimes the meat offering, those 2 things, in fact, I think it's every time, those are the ones that get burned up, but neither one of them have any meat in them, which is why I've always wondered why they called it the meal or the meat offering in English. That makes no sense to me. Those are what I would call the burnt offering. And then this other, the olah, I think we should call the barbecue offering. Is that okay? I don't know. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble with the Jews for that one, huh? All right. We can compare this verse to verse 4 from this same chapter. It says, and the priest will command that person, if you will, to acquire for his purity 2 live birds. And remember, live, pure birds, it said pures in plural. And remember, that's idiomatic for 2 kosher birds, 2 clean birds. That's what they mean by that. And wood, a scarlet worm, and hyssop. Do you remember that? I don't know if that's going to come up in this one. I think it does. All right, so let's move on to 23. Yeah, we're doing good on time. It says, Vehevi otam bayom ha-shemini le-taharato el ha-kohen el petach ohel moed lifnei Yahweh. Right? So, Vehevi, that's you may not be able to hear it, but the root of that word is bow. Come, go, left, arrive. All of those things are from that same word. Because if you go somewhere, you will arrive somewhere. Even if you don't arrive in the place you intended to go, you arrived somewhere. And so if you go, you went. And if you went, you arrived. If you come, you go. If you come, you arrive. All of those things are the same word in Hebrew, because they all mean literally the same thing. It's the Western mind that broke it up into come, go, went, arrived, all these different things that we have to say for it to make sense in our language. None of that's necessary. And there are languages to this day that still do that. I know there's at least one dialect in Africa that's still doing that, and it's one of the main dialects. So anyway, so this is the word, but it's in hefil, and if you remember that changes it to bring, because you're making someone come somewhere, you're making someone go somewhere, you're dragging them if you have to, or just making a command, or whatever it is that makes them arrive at some place. That's called bringing them there, right? We just have to think of it that way because it's in something in Hebrew called hefil. There's no English word for an equivalent to that. It's just like intensifying the idea of go becomes bring, or to make go is he is what I say he feel. I started to say he feel, but I thought, what was he? There's others that start with an H anyway. Then we say bayom. So in the day, he's going to bring on the day ha-shemini, the 8th day. So on the 8th day, he's going to bring. And it says, le taharato. The lamed is usually we put the word to. But in this case, we're going to put the word for. For cleansing he, and we say for his cleansing. Exactly the same thing. So on that day, he's going to bring all this stuff. And what's the purpose of it? It's for his cleansing. This is what it's for. El HaKohen, to the Kohen, El Petach, at the entrance. Or we could say to the entrance, but in English it makes more sense if we say at the entrance. Petach is an entrance. It's an opening. It's not the dalet. It's not the door or the gate. Dalet is a door or a gate. It's not that. It's the opening. If the gate is open, you can walk right through it. So it's not about the door. It's about the opening. Hopefully you understand that. Of what? Well, it says Ohel Moed. So at the opening. Well, you realize there's a couple of them because it's got that great big old fence around it, and there's an opening there. And then you walk across that big courtyard, and you have the entrance that actually goes inside, right? And even then, you've got another one. So, what do they mean, Rob? We'll figure it out. So it says at the opening or the entrance of the Ohel Moed, then it says Lipnei Yahweh. So before the faces of Yahweh. Okay, which is to be in his presence. So our translation, and he will bring them. Wait, who's he bringing with him? Them, the lamb and the two birds. He will bring them on the 8th day to the priest for his cleansing, to the entrance of the Ohel Moed in the presence of Yahweh. So if I'm guessing, I'm thinking it's not the outer fence entrance. I'm thinking it's further in. But it could be either. Let's see. We can compare this to verse 11 of this very same chapter. And the priest will make stand the purified. He's going to stand him in this spot, right? We're not getting that detail here because we already know it from verse 11. We know that when he arrives with his stuff at the entrance with the priest, we know from verse 11 that the priest will make him stand. So it says the priest will make stand the purified, the man who was purified, and them, the lambs, in his case, in the presence of Yahweh at the entrance of the Ohel Moed. So it says it a little bit different, and it's for a different purpose, but it's going to work exactly the same way, right? So you've got, I'm working on a lesson that I'm probably going to teach as early as next week. I'm not quite happy with it, but I'm real close. That we're going to go over biblical Hebrew grammar. I'm not going to talk about the binyanim, which is what I almost started to talk about a while ago, the he fil, he pa'el, and all of these different binyanim, that's the plural of binyan. And there is no English equivalent for those, but they're grammar things. And I don't want to talk about that sort of thing. I want to talk about the stylistic things that we need to know when translating and understanding the Hebrew Bible. Someone needs to tell us Why do they say the same thing over and over again? And why is it that one guy says it this way in Exodus and another guy says it that way in Leviticus and still yet a third guy says it another way in Deuteronomy? At least that's what the scholars say. No, it wasn't written by 3 or 4 different people. It was written by one man, and it was written in the poetic style. So what I want to do is take you through the poetic style and talk about why at one point we say Yahweh, at another point we say Elohim, at another point we say Adonai. There are reasons for that. It's not because one guy said it this way and another guy said it that way. No, there are actually grammar reasons for it. And so the Bible is written properly. There are reasons why things are repeated the way they are. There are actual grammar rules for knowing how many times to repeat yourself. And you never repeat it the same way. One time you'll say it as an overview. The next time you'll give it detail. The next time you'll give it as almost as a step by step chronological thing, and then the next time you'll give an overview. Those are all supposed to happen. It's part of the poetic style. So I want to take you through those rules and show you where I got them. Because I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not the first guy that ever came up with these things. In fact, Casuto is the guy we'll be studying. He was the world leader. But anyway, we're about to do all that, so I don't remember now why I was talking about that. Let's move on to 24. And it says, Velakach hakohen et keves ha'asham ve'et log ha'shamen ve'henif otam hakohen tenufa lipnei Yahweh. We almost have no new words here. Lakach, that's to take or reach out and pull to yourself. The Kohen, Keves, that's lamb, and this is Ha-Asham, the Asham offering. That's the name of this offering. This is Ve'et Log, that was that half-liter thing. We're taking a wild-haired guess at that. Ha-Shemen, that's the fat. Ve'henif, and that's... Is this? I think this is a different word. Let me look here real quick. I don't remember. I'm not positive, so I want to go back and look. Hear my voice go up like a teenager. Where was that? Shoot. I have to go back a long way here. I'm not finding it. I'm going to have to go back. Where was what?
24.
Oh, boy, I went a long way back. I think this is a different word, but essentially it means the same thing, or it's the same word. I'm not really positive at this point. But it's I talked about it just a minute ago. It's Josephus talked about the up and down, and they turn north, south, east, and west, and all that kind of stuff. I actually think this is a different word, but I can't remember for sure if I'm right. And I backed up. I couldn't find which verse it was in. Of course, I'm in a big hurry, and that's probably why I probably blazed right past it. So our translation, we just don't have anything new here. Our translation is, and the priest will take the lamb for the guilt offering, or the Asham offering, I should say, and half a liter of fat, and wave them, a wave offering in the presence of Yahweh, or to the faces is idiomatic for in the presence of Yahweh. So, of course, we can compare that to verse 12 of this same thing, right? And the priest will take the first sheep and bring it with him for the Asham offering, and half a liter of fat, and wave them, a wave offering, in the presence Oh, see, if I'd seen this, I would have known to go to 12. In the presence of Yahweh. So again, no brand new words there. We've already had all of these words already just today. So it's just now, instead of the guy bringing the stuff, the priest is actually going to actually do something with it. So verse 25, yeah, we have plenty of time for this. This is the big one. It says, Veshachat et keves ha'asham velakach hakohen midam ha'asham venatan al tenuch ozen hami taher hayemanit ve'al bohen yado ve'al bohen raglo hayemanit. I bet you some of you remember that, right? We've had this stuff already, but not today, so I'll go over some of it. Veshachat. So the priest has gathered up this stuff, and now what's he going to do? This is the word for slaughter. Now it's time to slaughter. Keves, the lamb, the asham. So right here, literally in the Hebrew, it just called the slaughtering of this lamb the asham. More proof that I'm right about this should be thought of as a noun, because it's the name of the sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice for guilt, and it certainly has nothing to do with somebody being guilty of slander. Nope, nope, nope. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Velakak, that you grab it and pull it to yourself. The Kohen will take it. Midam, dam is blood, so he's going to take from the blood of, he's just going to kill the sheep, and it's saying that he's going to take from the blood from ha'asham, again, he's calling this slaughter of this sheep the asham. So he's going to take the blood from the asham, venatan, and give or place. I don't know if y'all recognize that, Natan. Have you ever known anyone named Nathan? That's where that comes from, because to separate the T sound from one letter with the T sound from another, because you got the Tate and the Tav. So one of them gets just a T, the other one gets a TH, so that the reader was supposed to know you still pronounced it with the T sound, not the TH sound. But that got lost over time, and Natan slurred to Nathan, right? That's why you hear people from foreign countries, they don't say the TH sound, because they weren't exposed to the H like we in America were. Anyway, and they are pronouncing it correctly. There is no TH sound in anything in Hebrew or Greek for that matter. All right, so he's going to take that blood that's from the Asham offering, that is the Asham being the sacrifice lamb, and it's going to place that. He's going to natan, that's to give or to place, because if you give somebody something, you have to place it in their hand, is the idea. So you're going to take that blood, he's going to place it where? Tenuch ozen, on the tip of the ear. Ha mi taher, of the guy who's being purified. Ha yemanit, and that's the right hand. Ve'al, and upon bohen, the thumb, yado, the thumb of the hand. See, in biblical Hebrew, bohen, we say, we say thumb if it's the hand, and we say big toe if it's the foot, right? But in Hebrew, the bohen is the thumb and the toe. So it's more like saying the big digit of the right hand and the big digit of the right foot. So bohan doesn't really mean thumb, because it's used for the foot and the thumb, if you know what I mean. I hope y'all are following me there. I'm not sure I'm making any sense here. So it's the big digit of his right hand. This is Ha Yamanit, the right, and upon Bohan, the big digit of Raglo, his, foot, but we say his foot. Then it says Ha Yamanit, his right foot. So you say right after you say foot in Hebrew. So our translation. Now we were picking up in the middle of a sentence here, right? Because we broke off in verse 40 or 45. Verse 25, verse 24 ended right in the middle of the sentence. Verse 25 is picking up from the comma, if you will. So the priest has taken the lamb. It says, and now it's saying, and slaughter the lamb. So in the first half, in the last verse, it says he takes the lamb. Now it says, and slaughter the lamb for the Asham offering. And the priest will take the blood from the Asham offering, and place it on the tip of the right ear. That'd be mine over here. Probably looks backwards to you. And place it on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot of the purified person. I say it that way because in English, that's the way it makes most sense. I mean, if you say big digit, that might throw some people off. So let's just call it the thumb and the big toe. We can compare that to verse 14. The priest will take from the blood of the Asham offering, and the priest will place it on the tip of the ear, the right hand, and the big toe. No, wait a minute. Didn't I just say that? The right hand. Oh, the tip of the ear on the right, and on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot of the person who was purified. Just realized that translation wasn't quite up to snuff there, was it? Okay. So 26 is Umin Hashemen Yizok Hakohen Al Ka Hakohen HaSemalit. All right, so some of you probably heard a few words you understood and a few words maybe are new. So it's umin. It's because again, we're not finished with the same. We're still on the same sentence. We ended before we got to they break these things up in Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. There is no rule. There's no such thing as a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence being a sentence that just runs on and on and on. There just doesn't seem to be the end of the sentence. We break up sentences to smaller bits and call them paragraphs. So if it helps, you can think of a Hebrew sentence as a paragraph because they very often are. A single sentence should be thought of as a paragraph. Because that's what's happening in the English Bible is that one sentence is broken up into 4, 5, 6, 7 verses, but you're still on the same one sentence in Hebrew. And that's a bad thing as far as I'm concerned because these things get pulled out, separated from the piece that they belong to, and all kinds of nonsense comes of that. Anyway, I probably should add that to my lesson. I hadn't thought to add that one. Anyway, so and from the Hashemen, from the oil, yitzok. That's your new word. We've had it before, of course, but it's new here. It's to pour out. So it's the idea of you take a pitcher, not a picture, but a pitcher. A lot of people get those two mixed up. Talk about those pictures on the wall. Pictures hang on the wall. Pictures pour liquid. That's what they're for. Anyway, so he's going to pour HaKohen, that the Kohen was going to do this, on Gaf. That's the palm, because it's from the idea of a cup, a coupe. It's that the idea is the cupping motion. The Cohen, and then Ha Semalit in the left. So he's doing this thing with the right, with the blood, and he's going to pour the oil now into the palm of his left hand. I don't know if you caught that by all that I said, but hopefully the translation will tell you that. And from the oil, the priest will pour on the left palm of the priest, which is a funny way to say it, but that is the way it is proper to say it that way in Hebrew. This is just to make it real clear that he's not pouring it into the hand of the person who brought the sacrifice. He's pouring it in his own hand. It's just a way of being very, very clear here. So it raises the importance level because you have now said priest twice in the same sentence. That's one of the other things that we'll be talking about is why they say the same word twice. That's like putting an exclamation point at the end of the sentence because they didn't have punctuation back in those days. All right, 27. Behiza hakohen be'etzba'o ha-yemanit min hashemen asher al kapo ha-semalit sheva pa'amim lipnei Yahweh. It seems odd that nothing has been said by the sages at this point. And they didn't say much in this. They didn't say anything in the last chapter, and they haven't said much in this chapter. And mostly what they said is the reason why I'm talking about all this grammar stuff, because wow, were they off. Because it was grammar stuff they couldn't possibly have known. We'll go over that. I've already kind of talked about that last week. Let's see, we have vehiza, which we had, I think this word last week, or maybe it was week before. That's to spatter. So if you think of what they're doing, they're taking that hyssop and all that, and they dip it in the blood and they sling it, so that makes a spatter pattern. So you can think of the same thing as if you took a paintbrush and put it in a bucket of paint and then slung it on the wall, you get the spatter pattern. That's what the word is. It's spatter. So the Kohen will spatter be'etzba'o, his finger. He'll, I don't know how you spatter the finger, or take his finger and spatter. Well, it says the finger be'etzba'o, with his finger, then ha-yemanit, his right, the finger on his right hand. Mean, it says from Hashemen, from the oil, because we've shifted from the blood now to now he's got the oil poured into his left hand. Now he's going to take his finger, he's going to dip it in, he's going to spatter it in this. Probably he's going to dip it and then spatter, I think. Did I miss a word? Because that throws me off. Seems like it should be a different word. No, it's the word for spatter. Okay. 7, Sheva, 7, Pe'amim, 7 times. Pe'amim is, literally, Pe'amim is from the idea of to tread the foot, hence to step, a footstep. But it's again and again and again and again. It's not just a footstep, it's the walking, it's the treading, the pounding of the feet on the ground. And from that, we get times, because it's the idea of repeating. And time, I don't know if you can say time repeats, but that's kind of the idea here. So we're going to say times because it'll make sense in English that way. Lipnei Yahweh, so in the presence of Yahweh. So what's our translation? And with the finger on his right hand, the priest will spatter from the oil in his left palm 7 times. Yes, I had to move this stuff around for this to make sense, because when you just read it the way it is, this one kind of threw me, but I worked on it very long and very hard, and I know it's right. And with the finger on his right hand, the priest will spatter from the oil in his left palm 7 times in the presence of Yahweh. So it didn't say what he's going to spatter, at least in this part of the verse. but we'll find out for sure at some point. Now we can compare this to verse 16, and the priest will dip his finger, will dip the finger of his right hand from the oil that is in his left palm, and spatter the oil from his left palm, from the oil with his finger 7 times in the presence of Yahweh. And again, that one doesn't say what he's going to spatter. Okay. This might be pushing it. I'm going to try it. Verse 28. Venatan hakohen min hashemen asher al kapo al tenuch ozen ha mitaher ha yemanit ve'al bohen yado ha yemanit ve'al bohen raglo ha yemanit al nekon dam ha asham. We've had every last one of these words already today. So this starts off with Natan. So he's going to place, the Kohen is going to place from Hashemen, from the oil that's on Kapo, the palm. He's going to, now we're going to find out where he's going to splatter it. Tenuch Ozen, on the ear. Hami Taher, of the guy who's being purified, right? And then it says Haye Manit, that's the right hand, or on the right. It's not necessarily hand, but on the right. Be'al Bohen, big digit, Yado, of the hand, so on the right thumb. So you got the ear. He's dipped his hand in here, and he's going to tap the ear, and he's going to tap the thumb, and then he's going to, basically splatter it on. So he doesn't really have to tap the ear. He just splatter it toward it. Although I think you'd appreciate it more if he tapped it. It'd be less going inside your ear. But I don't know. It says he'll spatter it. So that's not the idea of tapping so much as it's slinging it. So I'd be all icked out by that one. Then it's the right thumb, and then it's the right on the right foot. So it's the big toe. And then it's the right hand, and upon Mekom is place, the place Dam, the place of the blood, Ha-Asham, of the Asham offering. So he's going to do this in the place where the Asham offering takes place. So our translation, and the priest will place the oil that is in his palm on the tip of the right ear, and the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot of the purified one, in the place of the Asham offering. We've got to get away from that whole idea of a guilt offering. I do not have time enough to go any further than this. I am going to have to call it a day. Shalom v'shalom, everybody.
The blessing, Be'ivrit. Yevarecha Yahweh v'yish merecha. Ya'er Yahweh p'nai v'lecha v'hunecha. Yisa Yahweh p'nai v'lecha v'yasim lecha shalom. And in English, may Yahweh cause you to lie down so that you may rest. May he touch and caress you. May he prepare you for what is ahead. May he watch over you. May he keep you from harm. May he cause goodness to grow in you and take away the bad. May he arrange your life and cause you to flourish. May he cheer you up and gladden your heart. May he cause his light to shine through you. May he show you tenderness, favor, and love in his presence. May he show you kindness and be delicate towards you. May he show you his generosity, mercy, compassion, and desire for you as it comes forth from the depths of his soul. May he lift you out of your pit and deliver you from the things that hold you prisoner. May he draw you to his chest and cast his eyes on yours. May he show you his love and desire for you as he cradles you in his arms. May he bear your punishment and pardon you of your sin. May he take you for his bride. May he establish a foundation in you. May he place his name on your heart and mind and make your body his temple. May you be his treasure. May you always be on his mind. May he draw you near and comfort you when you are afraid. May he assure you there is nothing to fear because he is with you. May you and all that concerns you be at peace because he is your friend. Amen.